Ever since I was a small girl, I remember my grandmother drinking afternoon tea. Every day she would sit at her table, dressed in one of her many expensive gowns and a slip on cup of tea. She had never offered me any until my mother died. I arrived at my grandma's estate 3 days after my mother's funeral. I had been 20 years since I had seen her last, but her home was still extraordinary as ever. Nestled on 50 acres of classic English countryside was her enormous British manor, located deep in the Suffolk country. Amidst rolling green hills is a grand iron gate, whose bars hide the place where childhood dreams were made, and behind its guard runs a long cobblestone driveway that gently meanders through perfectly shaped maple trees. It is nearly 3 miles before you reach the clearing where the manor lay. Rising above the electricity, the designed flower gardens that cascade downward towards the driveway. At the base of these colorful gardens, guarding the entrance, is a hand-carved marble water fountain. Inside the crystal blue water was a 20-foot statue of Aphrodite, standing nude along with the flowering hair draped over her breasts, stationed in a seductive pose. Her stone eyes glare out at who approach. On the east side of the property were the stable grounds. I would spend countless hours there learning to ride the most beautiful horses money could buy. I stepped from the black Rolls Royce, which had been shuttled me from the gates, and stood, taking the exquisite home. It was 3 stories of a classic British agriculture, modeled from the Kensington Place. It rose from the ground like a historic stone wonder. For 2 weeks every summer, it has become my personal playground, and my God, did I love it here. I walk up to the granite stairs, pictures of my mother's funeral under my arm, to a massive oak door. I rang the bell and took a deep breath, repressing my anger deep inside. Mr. Jeffrey, my grandma's head servant, greeted me at the door. "Hello, madam. It's a pleasure to meet you again," Jeffrey said, bowing his head as I stepped inside. "Hello, Jeffrey. It has been a long time." "Too far long, I must say. I have missed you dearly. You are a woman grown." "My mother sent for me. I was told it was urgent," I replied coldly, as I was in no mood for idle chatter. "You will find her in the tea room. Does my lady need to be refreshed of its location?" "I know where it is," I said, and turned away. "Miss, where are your bags? I've made up your old room just the way you like it." "I will not be staying long, Geoffrey." I snapped back and walked to the foyer. "I am sorry to hear that. I hope you reconsider." I entered the grand hallway, and there were hundreds of exquisite pieces of artwork adorned on the walls. My grandmother obsessively collected them over her lifetime. Many were hundreds of years old, and she often bragged how some were painted by the Renaissance masters, and it was mind-boggling on how much money this old woman had. I never thought much of it as a child, but now it seemed obscene that one person should have this kind of wealth. My heels clicked rapidly inside the grand corridor, reverberating off the 20-foot ceilings. With each step, I became even angrier. Oil paintings, sculptures, and stained glass littered the walls, each piece worth thousands of dollars. The place reeked of opulence. How could a person so filthy rich leave her child completely defenseless? Just one of these paintings could have provided my mother the care she desperately needed. I stormed through the French doors and found my grandma sitting on her tea table, sipping from the same weathered teacup she always used. Compared to the rest of her things, it was odd that she used such a simple cup. "Hello, Teresa," she said quietly, looking my way with her piercing gray eyes. They were as brilliant as ever. "Hello, Grandma," I chided. "Please sit with me, child." I sat down at the perfectly set table, fuming on the inside. It lay inside a magnificent room whose architecture utilized many erratic arches and columns. Lavish artwork filled the space on the walls, and marble statues of nude man and woman looked with steadily eyes. The ceiling rose about 30 feet to a golden dome, highlighted with the incredible Byzantine-style mosaic. It was almost more of a museum than a place for tea. Grandma's chair faced a wall of windows which peered out into the vast gardens behind the estate. Gardens which required his own full-name staff to maintain. The popularity of our lives could not be more striking. "How is Cassandra?" she asked. "Please do not forge interest in my daughter's well-being," I said, the words bursting forth. I did not fly halfway across the globe and indulge in small talk. "Go ahead, child. I imagine you have many strong words for me." "How dare you, you cold, heartless bitch!" I said, staring at her, unmoving. There was a hint of deep guilt behind her gray rides, but nothing more. "You wonder how I could miss the funeral of my only daughter. I bet it's quite unimaginable from your perspective. Do you know that she called out for you under her dying breath? She wept like a small child, begging for her mother as she passed. You were not there like always. Instead, you sat hiding here inside your castle. Mothers are not supposed to outlive their own daughters. Being a mother, I assumed you understood that," she replied. Nothing I had gotten through. I wanted to reach out and grab her turkey neck and squeeze. "That does not make it right. You left her cold, alone, and penniless as she slowly deteriorated. Look at this place and all this money, and you couldn't spare a nickel for your dying daughter," I said, seething with anger now. "I understand you are not wrong, child, and why we couldn't visit more often. Once a year you would bring us here to stay, to this fantasy land, a place you used to your advantage. You knew its power, the seductive force it had on me as a child. You must have thought that it may make Mom and I forget how little you were. Very well, it didn't work. My mother knew, and as I grew older, I came to understand it too. I am sorry, but it had to be that way. It is hard to understand now, but that is why I brought you here. It is time you learn the truth. I don't want to hear your pathetic excuses of the bitter cold old woman. Talking to you is meaningless. I had hoped that maybe you would exhibit a little silver of regret, but there is nothing here but an old woman and her things. No matter how many pretty horses and fancy things you gave us, at the end, it didn't buy our love. We knew it was all fake, just like the woman who gave it," I said, standing up from the chair. It was time to leave. "Teresa, wait. You can leave believing whatever you may about me, but please let an old woman speak, if only this last time." "Spit it out then," I said. "Look at you, dear. The last shreds of youth has left you. It is pain for all to see." "What did you say?" I said, facing her, astounded by her words. The gale of this woman was incredible. "You used to be beautiful, flowing long black hair, which shone brightly, even under the darkest of nights. A physique so flawless that you had your first modeling contract by the 7th grade. You were the beacon of youth and beauty to all those around you. But that has all vanished, gripped by my father's heartless grasp. You could continue to dye your hair, but the gray will always return, peeking up from your roots for everyone to see. And that skin, which you foolishly aged from all that heavy partying in your 20s, that will only get worse. But worst of all was your daughter. What her birth did to your body was impossible to hide. You are a poor single woman, closing on 50 with a teenage daughter. Do you think another man would look upon you as so many did long ago?" "How dare you!" I screamed, let alone tear leaving my eye. I hate to admit it, but she was right. Once I was this beautiful woman in any room I entered, but as age was not kind to pretty woman, it comes like a monster, eating away your identity, turning into a shell of who you used to be, then mercilessly rips away the man you loved and points in the direction of the newer, better model. I am sorry, but it's true. Time always wins. It will only get worse until you're old and alone. This must be a horrible perspective for you, Teresa. You always did prefer the attention of extraordinary man. Average never quite cut it with you." "Please stop. Why are you doing this? I came here hoping you would show me some remorse, But instead I come here and you insult me? You truly are pathetic. I hope when your time comes you remember how you left your daughter to die alone. Goodbye. I hope you rot in hell. Alone and afraid, and by the look of you, death cannot be far off, I said, walking out of the room. If you leave, I cannot help you. Fuck you, Grandma. You can't help me. You have never helped anyone but yourself. You can have it all back. The perfect hair, the beautiful face, your angelic skin, and best of all the elite male attention I know you desire. It can all be yours again, she said, smiling. This true woman had lost it. Are you mad? You said yourself I am almost 50. There is nothing I can do. You are mistaken, Teresa. I can give it all back. Just sit down and let me speak. 5 minutes is all I ask. I don't need your money. I refuse to become some hacked-up plastic monster. I am not suggesting plastic surgery. What I offer is a miracle. I cannot believe I'm doing this. You have 5 minutes, I said, reluctantly sat down. How old do you think I am? She asked. It was an interesting question, one I had pondered before. My grandma's age was always a mystery. She had always looked as an old woman, but she rarely moved like one. Her mind was always sharp, and I had never heard about her getting sick. It was strange to think about. 80, I said, factoring my mother's age. Not a bad guess, but a little low. I turned 101 last week. That's impossible, I said, chuckling at the preposterous of her claim. Oh, it is far from impossible. I was born April 22nd, 1915. I could show you my birth certificate if you like. I studied her face and decided that she must be lying. A centenarian would never look this good. Strangely, even though I had not seen her in 20 years, she did not look much different. Her hair was a little whiter and her skin was a bit more wrinkled, but her eyes were the same, strong and full of life. Let me ask you this, Teresa. When was the last time you remember seeing my hands? This was another interesting question, and one I had to think hard about. I thought back to my summers here as a child, and realized I had never seen her without her lavender gloves. Oddly, I do not think I ever seen them. You've always worn gloves. You are correct. Now please stay seated. I do not want you to be alarmed, my grandma said, standing up from the table in a smooth motion. There was no struggle in her movement. A woman of her age should not move that gracefully. My grandma took another of her lavender clothes and slowly pulled it off. Underneath the satin fabric was a small, delicate hand, whose skin was pure as milk. There was not a single wrinkle in any visible veins. It was the hand of a young woman. But how? I said, astounded. Wait, it gets much more interesting, she responded with a smile. My grandma raised her hands to her snow-white hair and tugged. As the wig came off, a cascade of long golden hair fell to her shoulders. It was healthy and beautiful. Who are you? I said nervously. I was beginning to get scared. Someone was impersonating my grandma. It is me, child. Listen to my voice, she said softly. She was right. It was her unmistakable voice. Now this will be the worst part. I need you to stay calm, she said, reaching up to my forehead. Her manicured nails dug into her skin and ripped slightly detailed latex mask from her face. My jaw dropped. Underneath her disguise was a portrait of a young, beautiful woman, no older than 20. Everything had changed except for the eyes. They were just as when I was just a child. What the hell? I said, stumbling out of my chair, my heart pounding from my chest. I know how shocking this must be, but do not be scared. It is me, your grandmother. But how? I said, listening closely to her distinctive voice. We are descendants of very rare necessary down to our matriarchal line. You and I are very special people, and now that your mother has passed, it is time you learn who you truly are. I promise to explain everything over a cup of tea, something I have been eagerly waiting for a long time. But we are forbidden to ever drink your tea, I said. That is true until today. I reluctantly sat back at the table and stared at this woman who claimed to be my grandma. My hands were shaking and I was struggling to breathe as I processed this strange turn of events. She walked over to her china cabinet and pulled out a small teacup and saucer from inside. It was an off-white porcelain with the hand-painted floral patterns, identical to the one she always used. She carefully placed it on the table. "This is yours, Teresa. It is very old. Do not let anything happen to it. Breaking it would be the ultimate tragedy." She grabbed the teapot from the table. A faint trace of steam rose from its spout, and poured a small cup of tea for us both. It was light brown in color. When finished, she peered at me, her eyes encouraging me to drink. I put the cup to my lips and sipped. I said, gagging at the foul-tasting drink. "What is this, poison?" "Quite the opposite," she said, chuckling. "The taste will get better in time. Eventually you'll come to enjoy this flavor." "I can't drink this. It tastes like it was pulled from a septic tank." "Just give me a moment," she said, taking a long sip of her cup. "What do you mean? Do you feel any different?" "If you're talking about a horrible taste in my mouth, then yes. Oh, forgive me, I forgot. It may take longer to act than my own. Go on now, have another sip. I assure you it's safe." "I will not. This stuff is vile." "You will change your mind here shortly," she said calmly. I leaned back in my chair and waved the amphora trickled down through my body. It was like a switch who had been flipped. When I arrived here, I had been angry, jet-lagged, and utterly exhausted. I had slept a little more than a few hours since my mother's passing, but now a surge of euphoric energy was pulsating inside me, like a hint of pure cocaine, but different. It didn't feel like a drug. "What the hell is going on?" I said, the effect intensifying with every breath. "Finish the drink. What you're experiencing is now only the beginning." Without hesitation, I emptied the contents down my own throat. The taste was worse than the second time, but it didn't matter. I wanted more. As the next wave of tea hit my stomach, I felt an even stronger explosion of energy penetrate my entire body. It was incredible, like the world's greatest drug was pumping through my veins, but instead of high, I felt alert, clear-headed, from best of all, alive. "What did you give me?" I said. "Welcome to afternoon tea, my dear. Now please come with me." My grandmother took my hand, and her skin as soft as a child, led me away from the tea room. I was floating high in ecstasy as we moved along her marble-laid corridors. Everything was perfect until something bad happened. "Something's wrong with my eyes. I can't see," I exclaimed. My vision suddenly became extremely blurry. I could only see the fuzzy patches of color. My grandma reached up and pulled off my glasses. It was like I had a blindfold removed. The world around me came to a sharp focus and incredibly clarity I had never experienced before. Ever since my early 20s, I had worn glasses or contacts, and my vision had continuously gotten worse from that point on. "How is your vision, Teresa?" Grandma said, with a gleeful pitch in her voice. "This is incredible," I said, astounded that I could see everything in perfect detail. "What happened to my eyes?" "They're healing." "Healing? But how?" "That is only the beginning." We traveled deep into the manor towards Grandma's ground-floor bedroom suite. Adjacent to her bedroom was a closet. A closet was bigger than my entire apartment. It was loaded with racks and racks of expensive clothing and shoes. We went inside, and she guided me to the front of the mirrors. "The change will subtle at first, but take a hard look at yourself and tell me what you see." I stared deeply into the wall of mirrors, my naked eyes inspecting it with newfound precision. There was something different, but I could not pinpoint. "What am I looking for?" I said. "Look closely. At your face." I moved closer to the mirror and studied my face. It was my wrinkles. They were still visible. They were lessened considerably. I looked like I had a good long sleep and a professional makeup applied. The bags under my eyes were gone. The sun marks had lightened, and my hair looked vibrant and alive. The gray roots had faded away. "Holy shit, I look 5 years younger." "Precisely," she said with a grin. "How is this possible?" "This is your inheritance, Teresa." "My inheritance?" "You have given a special gift, a gift that has passed down to our family since the early 18th century. It's extraordinarily powerful. What you're experiencing now is a symbol of its full potential, which is beyond your wildest imagination. But you do realize this power. I must give you a choice. Either you can forget any of this ever happened and return home, or you could stay with your old grandmother and join me tomorrow for afternoon tea. The choice is yours. I've had your room prepared by Jeffrey. I assume you remember where it is. Of course! How could I forget? Stay for the night. Explore the stables as you did as a child, and come to the decision. Return to your life as you once knew it, or travel down a rabbit hole. I do hope you choose the latter, and then maybe you will come to understand the decisions I have made in my life. And with that she left, to where I do not know. But one thing was certain, I did not need time to reflect on my decision. Dad had me at the first sip. I was heading down the rabbit hole. I entered the tea room precisely at 3 o'clock. Tea time had always been at 3 p.m. at my grandmother's house, although neither my mother nor I had participated. We could always see her, behind the glass, sipping her afternoon tea as she watched us play in the garden. My grandmother was already seated, wearing the beautiful sequined and black gown. There was no mask. She was still in the young, beautiful woman I met yesterday. Apparently they needed a disguise that had concluded. She smiled as I walked in. No doubt pleased, I decided to come in. On the table were 2 cups and a teapot, steam pouring from the spout. "Hello, dear. I am glad you decided to come," she said. "How could I resist?" I replied, taking a seat at the table. "Truly," she said, nodding. "I was in your position once, a very long time ago." I did not respond. My attention focused on the kettle. "You want more, don't you?" she said. It was incredible. I haven't felt like that in years." "And how do you feel today?" "Still different, but nothing like I did yesterday. Unfortunately, the effect is not permanent. It must be constantly maintained." "What is it?" "The tea, I mean." "It's complicated," she said, pouring the tea into my cup. "Now sip the cup slowly. It's much better that way." I pulled the cup to my lips and took a sip. I gagged briefly, but kept it down. "Tell me what it is." "Soon enough, my dear," she said, taking a sip. "Are you ready to hop down the rabbit hole?" "I'm ready," I said greedily, taking another sip of the hot, rancid tea. "You and I were born into a very special family. Unfortunately, I knew very little of our origins, but the only thing is questionable. We have been blessed with a remarkable gift. It is your inheritance, revealed to you at your mother's passing. The source of this gift had been lost, but luckily for us, the benefit remains. What I do know is this: our powers come strictly from the tea you are consuming, with nothing more required. Now this blended here," she said, holding her cup, "it's significantly stronger effect on me than it will you." "Why is that?" "Well, because it's a unique blend, tailored specially for me. Soon you'll have your personal blend, precisely brewed for your own use. When consumed, it will transform your entire life in a matter of minutes. Like what happened to my eyesight. That is a small part of it, but the effect is more comprehensive than that. It's the simplest explanation. The tea could be described as a fountain of youth. That exquisite beauty you enjoyed as a young woman will all be yours again, and only now will be amplified. Imagine being young, a young beautiful woman, never needing makeup nor watching what you eat. You will have the metabolism and stamina of your professional athlete, able easily to accomplish any physical task you attempt. Your skin will be flawless and perfectly colored, without the need of any products. That long black hair of yours, well, it'll be perfect. Every single day, your body will be the epitome of health. Getting sick will be a distant memory, erased from your life like the wrinkles from your eyes. You will look like you're 18 years old again." 18 years old? Are you serious?" "Very. Here, take a look at yourself," my grandmother said, handing me a small brass mirror. I peered at my reflection, and my face was already looking brighter and healthy. I was changing each sip. "And I won't get sick?" "I have not had so much as a cough in the past 70 years, she said. "Is that how long you've been using this?" "Yes, it's around that number. It is a very powerful asset. All you see this, my youth, my extreme wealth, and have all derived from drinking this tea." "How did your youth bring such incredible wealth?" "In many years, the easiest method is simple enough. seduction and manipulation. Combine a wise mind with the body of a goddess, you have a lethal combination. Men are like flies. Put some honey and they buzz into a trap. Bill blindfolds all. They are all simple creatures. However, that is not your only weapon. The world has changed, and women of today can make own way without need of powerful men. You see, youth and beauty are not the only benefits. It also purifies the brain of its imperfections, resulting vastly in improved function. Your intelligence will increase tenfold. You will soak up and retain vast amounts of information with these ease as long as you continue to drink from this cup. Amassing great wealth with these attributes is simple. This sounds all too good to be true. In some ways it is. I would be lying if I told you there was no cost. However, I find this pales comparison to the benefits. You may or may not feel the same way. What is the cost? Your mother, she said. My mood soured. With all the excitement, I had forgotten about her. What happened to her? I asked, revelated anger rising to the surface. I loved your mother dearly, Teresa. Everything I did, the distant relationship, avoiding her funeral, it was all for her own good. But we'll cross that path soon enough. For now, I just remember there is a profound cost, and you alone must decide if that cost is worth it. For me, it was. Our family gift is passed down to the Martino bloodline. Unfortunately, the ability to use it always skips a generation. I inherited it from my grandmother, whose grandmother passed it to her, and so on for the last 3 centuries. It was revealed to me on that day that my own mother died, and today I pass it to you. Sadly, your mother was unable to receive the gift, thus it can only come to you, my only granddaughter, Cassandra. Like your mother, cannot receive its power. It is reserved for the eventual granddaughter. If Cassandra does not bear a female child, the gift will end. I sat back, deep in thought, and continued to sip the disgusting brew. It was bitter and grainy, but with each sip it delivered was more of what I was craving. My physical senses were heightened. Hearing, touch, smell, sight, it was all so vivid and clear. This was truly a miracle. Now that you understand the immense power, it is time I reveal the source, which I must warn is incredibly unsettling. I can still vividly remember the day I had learned a dark secret of its power. It was very difficult, but I assure you the negative feelings will pass you once you ingest your first cup of tea. What is so great about the first cup? Everything, she said, a smile curling upon her lips. It's especially be blended for you, the blend where you must be consuming. It belongs to me. It can only give you a brief glimpse of behind the curtain. To reveal all, you must consume at it a full strength. After your first cup, you will look 30 and reveal 20. This effect will last several days, but you drink it daily. Well, that's where the real magic happens. You will be thrust into the prime of your life, armed with the assortment of weapons you never had access to the first time around. Nothing can stop you. There is no death. No death? Correct. Let's say someone you trust tries to take your life for something, which was given you power. It'll probably happen at least once. Jealousy is a nasty beast. Imagine you are stabbed. Well, that's no problem at all. Your body will just heal itself almost instantly. Strangulation? Doesn't matter. You'll just keep breathing. No illness or disease can ever harm you. You will be under its effect, immortal. I was stunned, imagining this must all be a dream. Immortality, eternal beauty, more money than I could spend. It all seemed too good to be true. Tell me how to make it. I am ready, I said, although I was waiting. The $1,000,000 question, well, no use putting it off any longer. Will you either accept it or not? What's the catch? It must be important. Finish your drink. It is better I show you. I took the last swig, wincing as it went down. As I stood up, I felt no more pain in my knees and my lungs. Well, I bet that I could run a marathon in a single breath. Come this way, my grandma said. What you are both to learn seemed disturbing grotesque at first, but I will need you to remain calm and think about the bigger picture. This is an amazing opportunity for you, Teresa. Please try and understand that. Where are we going? I asked as we walked down a small dirty hallway, one I never seen before. You want to know the catch? Yes, I said. Well, it's a big one. At the end of the hallway was a dead end. Grandma's fingers touched the wallpaper and delicately drew a pattern. It was some sophistical hidden keypad. She then pressed her palm on the wall, and the door hidden slid open. Cold air rushed out towards us. What is this place? I asked. This is my freezer. Inside the hidden room was a small table with various items on it. At the far end was a large steel door, a door to a walk-in freezer. Felt a bit more nervousness sweep through me, briefly dampening the uproar. It is time. Behind this door is the truth, she said, slowly opening the freezer door. A fluorescent light flickered to life just as I looked inside. I turned my head and retched, hacking up the tea from my belly. Fuck, I shrieked, staring at the corpse, which lay on a gurney. The body had been mutilated. The left leg and arm were gone, and it was the body of a woman. Teresa, this is my mother. She was your great-grandmother, she said flatly. My great-grandmother? I said, shaking with fear. What the fuck is she doing in your freezer? Well, my dear, this is the catch. My grandma grabbed a large knife and hung from the ring and approached the body. The dead woman was nude and, to my amazement, looked surprisingly good for a century-old corpse. Without hesitation, my grandma went straight for the right thigh and hacked off the small piece of the hardened flesh. I almost spilled up more tea, but watched hypnotized and paralyzed shock. After removing the flesh, she left the freezer and approached the table. She placed the flesh into a small grinder. Seconds later, it was morphed into a fine powder, which was dumped onto the table. Once I saw her grab the empty tea bag, I understood. That is the afternoon tea? I said, horrified. This is the secret. How could you do such thing? That is your mother. Unfortunately, this is the only way it works. Our life is drawn from their death. The realization hit me like an oncoming train. I understood how to make my blend. You don't mean, do you? I said, not wanting to believe it. It is the only way. To obtain the key to unlimited youth, you must continue down this same road as your ancestors. Do you honestly think I would hack up my mother and drink her? All those years away from us have warped your mind. What you chose is slowly yours. I am just here to show you the way, as you must do for your granddaughter when Cassandra passes. You can't be serious. Cassandra will never be extracted something. Ficatoris' granddaughter can follow this path. I understand how difficult it is to comprehend. I have stood in your shoes, but I'm not here to convince you, only to show you the way. I will never, I said firmly. Fine, but please, you must let me finish. It is my duty. I am sworn to reveal everything to you. Get it over with, I demanded. You will need your mother's body. This won't be a problem. Soon you will understand that everything is possible with the power of money. I suggest keeping the body frozen, as I have done. It will last much longer, and eliminates any nasty side effects associated with the dead. You must drink at least a cup a week to stay healthy and keep a median age around 30. To get all the benefits and relieve your youth, you must drink a cup per day. If my calculations are correct, freezing and conserving her body, and only living half the year drinking a cup a day, you will survive at least another 200 years. You can extend that number an additional 100 years with proper rationing. How can you talk like this? So pathetic. That is your daughter we were talking about. Your flesh and blood. Do you think I not know that? My grandma said, a hint of anger in her voice. You don't think a part of me regrets this life? It is just worse than consuming her body. Much worse. What you did to her, I said, anger seething from the insides. Have you ever wondered why your life was so shitty growing up? Why you're always so poor, and why your mother always seemed to have the worst possible luck? What are you saying? The gift requires a cynical process. While I became younger, she became older. I got rich and she had to be poor. I was healthy and she was not. This path requires the ultimate sacrifice. Your only daughter. The moment you begin to consume, her life begins to decline. She will experience a rough life, but she will only scrape by and survive, and eventually give birth to a daughter. That child will be one of us and inherit the gift. She too will enjoy a wonderful life. Cassandra will give her child the greatest gift imaginable, as your mother gave you. It is quite noble if you think about it. That is not my choice to make. How incredibly selfish do you think I am? Maybe you can understand my absence, and why I barely stomach seeing your mother move more than once a year, and I only went that far because I wanted to see you. It was devastating seeing her falling, while it had it all. Early on I tried to say, but it was too much. So I moved to England, disguised myself, and hid the secret from you all. What about the last 20 years? Where were you then? I knew she would get very sick. It was inevitable. I couldn't handle watching her suffer and die. And it was your fault, you disgusting woman, I said, glaring at her with disdain. It had to be done. I did it for you. Don't you understand? I'm done with this. I'm leaving. It would be a cold day in hell before I would ruin my daughter's life. I understand, she said quietly. Beware, though. I anticipated this reaction. Made some choices for you. Goodbye, Grandma. I will not be returning, I said, turning away from the porcelain-like face. I was on the next plane home to L.A. that afternoon. I arrived home, beaten and exhausted. The tea's effects had faded, and I was now back to my old self, trudging up the stairs to my one-bedroom apartment. I almost thought how great it was to be home until I saw a passed-out junkie on the walkway just outside my door. Cassandra was at her father's, staying at his Malibu beach house, with that bitch of a stepmother, Kelsey. It should be me living there with my family, but instead I'm stuck here, old and alone. Seeing my grandmother's estate again only intensified that pile of shit was my life. But at least I would see Cassandra in the morning. I had missed her. Just as I went to open the door, I got a text message. Cassandra, hi Mom, hope you get home okay. Going to stay at Dad's for a week. Kelsey got me a horse and it's taking me riding up that valley. I hope you don't mind. See you later. My hands shook as I read the message. She had been spending more time with her father lately. It wouldn't be long till she fled for college, leaving her lonely mother behind. She had grown up so damn fast. As I opened the door, there were footsteps at my back. It was a delivery man. Miss Taylor? The man said, holding a box. Yes, that's me. I have an urgent delivery for you. This box and freezer. The freezer's still on the truck. It was her. That despicable old bag did not get the hint. I did not want her path, but I also did not want my mother being dragged around inside that box truck for the unforeseeable future. Bring it up, I said reluctantly. I would get her back up to the cemetery somehow. Yes, ma'am, he said, retreating down the steps. As I entered my apartment and examined the box, it had been sent overnight from England. I ripped it open, and inside was a letter in 8 small teacups. They were all identical. I opened the letter and began to read. Dear Teresa, I am sorry that we parted company under such salutary conditions. However, I do not hold it against you. What you saw is shocking and difficult to understand. But if you are reading this, then you know I have arranged a freezer to be delivered. Yes, your mother's inside. If this angers you, then please send me a message, and I will have her placed back in the cemetery. However, if you choose to follow your ancestors' footsteps, here are some rules you must follow. As I continued to read, the man came in the apartment with the freezer. Where do you want it, man? In the back room, please, I said. The man put it there and plugged it in, signed for it, and then left. I continued to read. 1. Conserve. To make your supply last, you must place yourself. It can be extremely intoxicating to spread any day youth, but you must restrain yourself. You will only understand soon enough. 2. For your mental well-being, I strongly advise you put your distance between you and Cassandra. It is her best interest not to know the truth. You may need to move away, as I did so many years ago. 3. Guard the cups. If they are broken beyond repair, the gift is extinguished. 4. A piece of flesh is no bigger than a penny is all it needed. Steep the bag 3 times. Each bag can be reused to make 30 cups. Every part of that body will work, including bone. Let nothing go to waste. 5. The first cup will have a very intense effect. Be prepared. Your body will go through a drastic change in a very short period. I suggest being alone. 6. Create an egg nest. You will need lots of money. Use it to develop some sort of alternate identities. Hire only people you can trust with your secret, like Jeffrey. Pay these people handedly to keep your secret. 7. When Cassandra passes, you must lay your secret to your granddaughter. Give her the best of cups I have included, and tell her our method. The gift is in your hands now. This is all. Everything else will come to you in time. I hope you decide to visit. We have so much to discuss. Remember, my door is always open for you, Teresa. With love, Grandma Terry. I put the letter down, my hands trembling. I rushed to the bathroom, bent over the toilet with the urge to vomit, but it never came. When I stood up, I looked deep into the mirror at that woman I had become. Without the tea's beneficial effect, I was reverted to my previous self, old and withered, haggard from the years of abuse I had inflicted on my body. All that partying from my 20s caught up with me. I had lost everything. Now I had just lost another middle-aged woman, lost in the endless sea of ordinary people. And I hated ordinary. Gone were the days as a teen, where the times were spent laying in the sun, tanning my golden body. Endless free vacations and gifts brought upon man who barely knew me, and all vying for my attention. The meteoric rise up, and the California social scene where I was someone was making waves with the rich and famous. Then I got pregnant and everything came crashing down. My body was ruined along with its aspirations. Cassandra's father was a successful Hollywood producer, pensious asshole who dumped me as soon as he found out. With no formal education or job prospects, I was left penniless to raise my daughter on my own. Only years later did he come around, and he became the now doting father. He proceeded to spoil her rotten, garnering her favor while I was left dealing with the most challenging portions of parenting. Cassandra, oblivious to the struggles I endure as a single mother, came to love for her father. Why couldn't she see? He could have seen her anything she desired, and now she barely comes to see me anymore, spending more time with her new hip stepmother, all while her mother rotted alone, working in a crappy minimum wage job and living in a shitty substyle apartment. I screamed and then cried until there was nothing left but anger. I went to the kitchen, grabbed the knife, and slowly moved into my bedroom. The compressor hummed. She was really inside? I took a deep breath and pulled the hatch. Inside was my mother, crammed in a fetal position. It was the only way to fit a body inside. To my relief, her head was covered with a black hood. After a brief hesitation, I went for it, slicing a small piece of flesh from her forearm. It was easier than I expected. I shut the freezer and went to my kitchen, where I pulled a coffee grinder from the cabinet. I grounded the flesh into a powdery mix, exactly how my grandmother had done. Then I wrapped the powder in a small napkin and steeped it in some boiling water. I had brewed my first cup of tea. It was brown and smelled foul, but I had salivated it with anticipation. He will lust for me once more. However, this time will be his life that is ruined, not mine. I sat back, thanked my mother, and took my very first sip. What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Ms. Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, please stay pretty.